We've got some
Hey,
fresh
I'm
new young
Luis.
talent
And
doing
I'm
some
Luis.
things that
And you're
I know
listening
you
to the
haven't
Content
heard
is
before.
Profit podcast.
And we spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit.
If you'd like to learn how to turn that content into profit, just go to contentsprofit.com. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a surprise in there for you, right, Fonzie?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
And
You're
I'm very
excited. You're very excited.
Yes, I'm very excited.
I'm very excited too. Okay, go ahead.
You need to stop with the energy drinks. That's what I'm going to say. But
it's
guys,
okay.
today we have an incredible guest. I am so excited.
Yes.
I was reading over her bio.
Ooh.
And I mean, this person has done a lot. And we're here to
Yes.
learn from her today. So
Yeah.
without
So
further ado,
excited.
let's go. Let's get this started.
Yeah. Before we get started, guys, don't forget. Go ahead and subscribe to the show because
Yep.
every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, these incredible entrepreneurs are coming to share all the secrets with you. And follow us on social media at BizRoseGo because we publish there every single day multiple #golden boulders. That's right.
That is right. And if you find this episode impactful, if today's guest helps you take one step closer to your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Today, another awesome episode. We partner with PodMax to share the stories of some amazing people that are shaping our future. People that are taking ideas and turning them into reality. These stories are meant to empower you to go all out and build a brighter future.
That is right. Today's guest has an incredible pedigree. She is the current CMO at VaynerMedia and has worked with some incredible brands like Adobe, Kellogg's, Nintendo, and many more. She is personally committed to establishing gender equality and is a board member of the United Nations Association of New York, helping to take a stand on issues including human trafficking. She is just impressive. Out of this world. I'm so
right.
excited.
Tell me about her superpower, Fonzie.
Good
What's her
question.
superpower? Yes.
She is a super connector, my friend.
Oh,
and I
can't
can't wait
wait
to dig a little bit deeper into this.
I know. She's super proud of walking Camino de Santiago. If you guys don't know what that is, go Google it. It's super impressive. It's incredible. I have some friends that have been going there. She has actually, helped build schools in Kenya with an organization called We. Super impressive. We're definitely going to have to connect and do this more. And she's very proud of being a mom and working at the same time. Yes, 100%. I cannot relate to that. Maybe my wife can. All right, here we go. The name of the company that she's coming with is VaynerMedia. So I don't think there's an introduction to be made on VaynerMedia because everybody
if
that we
you
talk
don't
to,
know,
go
Google it
it.
up.
Yep.
Please welcome super connector Andrea Sullivan.
Woo! Oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. I finally made it.
Andrea, we're so excited. I feel like I'm like, we can't believe it that we are in the presence of the one and only Andrea Sullivan.
You guys are the best, and you know exactly how to pronounce my name in the way that I love it. And you know
Let's
it.
go. Hey, since you told us you live in Spain, we were like, okay, we gotta put that
That's right,
spice
we're
in
moving
there.
I know.
We are right now.
We're about to do the whole intro in Espanol. So, good thing we have it. But anyways, Andrea, we're super honored to have you here. Thank you for sharing your time with us and share all this knowledge. But obviously, the introduction, it tells a lot about you, but we want to learn a little bit more about your journey, like your story, like why you do what you do now, why marketing, why messaging, why VaynerMedia, like how did that start?
Well, it's funny because you were asking me, where did you come from? And I actually came from Wisconsin,
Yes.
where branding and marketing was all about how you branded a cow, right? That's where I started, was in branding before I moved into social media and marketing for real. But no, I mean, really, my mission and my religion is all about helping people to tell their stories and to be able to do it at scale and dial up that volume. And so I'm very lucky to be a part of Vayner and to have joined Gary Vaynerchuk, who is the master of all that.
Yeah, talk about being loud, right? But Andrea, I'm extremely curious. I was reading over again your bio, and I was impressed. You have been part of so many communities, like education boards. I think you were part of the design school in Miami as well. I have one of my best friends. He actually graduated from there. So I'm curious on that background, right? And what lessons did you get from that now you're applying to your I don't know if new, but to your role of CMO, right, at VaynerMedia?
Yeah, I mean, look, my goal is just to be able to connect up great humans, because if we all can be surrounded by people who are curious and take action, and believe in doing good for the world, then we can accomplish that much more. And there's a lot to be done. So, I believe that, I'm lucky. I've had a really fantastic career. And now what I'm trying to do is give access to as many people as possible. And education is a big part of that. So you mentioned the Miami Ad School. They're doing tremendous things, especially around diversity. So they have one of the earliest and the greatest scholarship programs that tries to encourage people to get into advertising and content creation, and communities that didn't even think about that as a potential job opportunity.
Yeah.
And so they've been able to increase their diversity numbers by like 400%. It's crazy. Wow. And they, and now these students have landed in great places, and they're winning awards for being some of the top people in the industry because they're the best thinkers and the best creators, and they're close to culture. And to me, that's a success story. If we can start at the beginning and get the cool people into our industry, then let's figure out how we nurture them, and then they create great work, right?
I love it. I mean, I think people and the creators, like community now, like we see so many awesome backgrounds, not only on YouTube, but like in new platforms like TikTok or even podcasting, having these incredible conversations, right? And they're having meaningful conversations, right? It's something that if you listen and you take action today, you'll have progress, you'll make a change, you create a positive impact in the world, in whatever you're doing, right? And it hasn't been as easy as it is today to put your message out there. And earlier you said ad volume. Could you explain a little bit what ad volume means? Because here's where my question is coming from. We are fans, massive fans of high volume content. I mean, right now, and again, what we do is probably nothing compared to what you guys are currently doing, but we normally, I mean, today we're probably publishing about 400 to 400 pieces of content every single month, right? So, and then when we mention this to the entrepreneurs and the people that we work with, their eyes goes like, why? They're like, what? What are you talking about? Why so much? Like how? Like obviously there's systems and processes on the back end, but at the same day, it's like, I'm scared of like, I'm going to scare my audience. I'm like, man, we're passionate about our message. We're passionate about our conversations. People need to hear this, right? So that's where my question is coming from, because I think this is the first time that we get to ask that question with somebody that's in there, inside of the machine, of the guy that is preaching volume, share it every day, every single day, put your message out there. So what is high volume, and how does it apply today to your strategy or the people that you guys are currently helping?
You are so speaking our religion. It's absolutely fabulous. So whatever anybody's doing, it's not enough, right? And that's the punchline. That gone are the days where you come up with one big idea backed by an insight with a single, campaign that we then, kind of smooth out like peanut butter across a bunch of channels. We have to connect with people in new, fresh ways. We need to broaden the spectrum of all of our stories, and we need to go and test them out, see what works, try things out, experiment. At the time where you think you finally nailed something, you got to keep changing it up. And so we are the same message that you just celebrated, the whole idea that let's just get out there and, keep making more. We see people fall out of their chairs when we start making recommendations, whether it's a consumer facing company, whether it's a sports figure, or B2B even. A lot of companies are finally starting to realize, oh, wow, I need to be active on social media as well.
Yeah. I remember the moment things shifted. And by the way, like, I'm not just hugging the microphone. And Fonzie has a smart question, so I'm sure he'll knock the socks off both of us. But I just this is a question that I had since the moment we saw that you were coming here on the show, right? So I remember when we shifted the perspective around content. It was about a year ago when we actually started the show, and we published live 3 times a week, right? And it came from a moment of the almost desperation in the business side of things, right? COVID came into town. Everything closed. We were helping a lot of brick and mortars. We've been in business for about 5 years now, and we lost about 80%. And we're like, man, like the show was literally our last resource, like platform, right? To get the message out there, to get relationships, to get conversations. And then it started to evolve from there. developing strategic relationships and different things, and obviously with the publishing on the back end, helping us get out there. But the perspective was, what if? And we started trying things out. It was not tied to the data that was like, oh my God, we're hugging the data, or like this one post did not do well. Like we see the content as a whole machine. People ask us like, what is the reach of your podcast? Well, it's not just a podcast. It's a platform. It's a show. It's many, many pieces over a long period of time. It's about 2 months when that episode is released, and then content afterwards, right? So it's the whole picture. And once we started seeing it that way, we started seeing benefits in every side of the way. Relationships, strategic partnerships, the numbers, everything continues to grow, right? So we're like, that is pretty interesting. But it took a little while, right? It took a mental shift. So with you guys see that in the people that you guys help to, or the conversations that you guys have. Why are people so afraid of maybe making that shift? I think it's a mix of like fear and not knowing what the process could be to scale without them, time wise, investing a ton of time. What is that you guys see in there? Or if I'm completely wrong, please let me know. But is there an element of fear in there for people to kind of go that route?
You nailed it. Fear is the thing that's holding everybody back. And so everyone is sort of locked into these ways of measuring things and hierarchies where everyone has to prove things so everything looks the same, and they're just getting in their own way. And so one of the things that we try to do immediately is get our clients to build new muscles to kind of loosen up. And we throw them all onto a big text string, with Gary and the teams, and we start shooting off ideas the second we wake up in the morning. And at first they're really excited, right? They're like, this is amazing. What an adrenaline rush. All these ideas. And then, the second day it keeps coming, the third day, and then they start to say, oh my God, I gotta turn this down a little bit. Yeah. But I think that it's unbelievable how paralyzed we make ourselves oftentimes in filtering our own ideas. And so how do we take that fear out of the equation, start to just get out there, test things, and then you see the results and you know where to go, right? And because the world will tell you in a digital environment. Yeah. And so that's what's different. You don't need to rely on these old crutches and old ways of doing things. And to your point about looking at what are the ways to amplify everything so that you have that exponential reach on the other side across a whole platform of things, that's the way to go.
Interesting. I'm very curious on, because we're talking about being loud and all this. Were you thinking about being loud before working for VaynerMedia, or that is something that it took you a while to get used to? Or if it was before VaynerMedia, I'm curious on how was that transition for you? How did that look in your life?
It was hard. It was a tough transition. So I'd been for 16 years, I had been at Omnicom, which is, a big holding company. When I departed, I was the global CMO of Interbrand. And, great place, lots of friends and family that still live there. But the view on how you build a brand was something that had a very kind of linear look to it. And I think what we know now is the powerful brands are brands that can stretch and change. They don't have to be consistent all the time. In fact, they have a responsibility to change and evolve and meet us where we are and to support us. And, especially in years like this one, brands were really tested. You had to not only say the right things, you actually had to do them. And if you didn't, not only were your customers going to leave, but your employees. I mean, this was a year where all of that had to really come together. And so I think it's a big step forward. I think that we now, have to be much more authentic, much more relevant in what we're doing. Yeah. And that means doing things at speed. Yeah. So, one of the best ways to get out there with volume is to just, continue to create and to do it in the now and to allow everyone to participate in that and not to overproduce the content as you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, you just hit her. Yes. Or one of our mantra is quality of the message over quality of the production. Like we say it all the time. And honestly, the way it started is because we were those guys. Well, it was mainly me. That guy that was like a perfectionist. Like, oh, let's put the camera, the light, the stuff. Like, it has to look perfect. And then I just realized I was just making an excuse because I was afraid of putting myself out there. Yeah. And we started saying quality of the message over quality of the production, quality of the message over quality of the production. And we started doing what we call 45 Live, which is a challenge of going 45 days in a row live on Facebook, right? And that's when literally a lot of things changed for us. We got one of the biggest contracts that we've had from that challenge. And then we did it a second time. We got another client and we're like, wow, this thing works.
And
it's
a little bit of
cool.
context too, like you see us, right? Two kiddos from Venezuela, right? And the contract at that time was an $80,000 contract with a $200 million company, right? So the reason I mentioned this is not for flexing, it's for reference, right? Because we actually did the season 3 open to the public about 2 weeks ago, right? It ended and we had about 100 people in the challenge. It was so awesome. People like being transformed, right? But one of the questions that we always had was like, well, what was that client? Was it like the local business right here? No, like it was just a video, and the video that made it was the vulnerable video in a couch, like when my baby was 4 months old, that I was putting him to bed, and I'm coming back to the video. I'm like, oh man, this just happened, right? And it was that video that resonated with that person that made the decision, right, to bring us along, right? And that's the reference, right? And then people are like, oh man, okay, my belief is completely crushed right now. Let me go out and put my message out there every single day so I can practice my message, like Fonzie was saying, right? And remove that friction of production, right? Because that's only gonna stop us. Like, how can we get that momentum going? Remove all the friction. We have the hashtag smooth operator.
That's your own personal hashtag.
That's from F1. Big fan.
Nobody uses that.
Oh man, it's not sticking. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. Reiterating.
It's okay. You gotta test. You gotta put it out there and test it out to see if people like it. But I love this. Like the 45 Live, just getting yourself out there. Getting over the production thing is such a big part of our story. And we often tell people, well, after you do that, you're going to start getting people interested. You're going to start developing these conversations, relationships, getting clients, and then you can, invest in the production side of things, right? But you mentioned brands need to be flexible. And I'm very curious about this because as you were speaking, you also mentioned a little bit there, kind of not specifically, but a little bit about culture inside. So being flexible with what's happening out there, brands, and then kind of like inside of your business as well. I'm curious, right? Because people have these missions and visions, right, that they have for their businesses. But then when we're talking about being flexible, won't you think people might be like, oh, but then I'm not sticking to my mission and my vision, right? Like, and I'm just kind of playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, but I'm curious to see what your answer is to this, right? Like, how can people be flexible? Honestly, like, how does that look like? From a perspective on someone like you, right, that is working with huge brands that have lots of employees, right? They have already cultures that have been established for many years. And then all of a sudden you're like, we got to be flexible. We got to do, shifting here and there. How do we prepare for that? How can we know what is the best moment to be flexible as well?
Yeah, I think, it just comes down to one thing, and that's having empathy. And really being able to listen to what's going on out in the world and just be able to meet people and to meet people where they are and where they need you. And so there's no formulaic response. Yeah. The whole idea of like a mission and purpose-led brands and, that was all the talk. But I think it got tested this year, right? So, pre-pandemic, everyone was talking about purpose-led brands and, it's a great idea and it's a way of knitting the past to the future. But we know who the strong leaders are now, right? And with the crisis of confidence and all kinds of infrastructure, health and well-being and politics and all the rest, brands had to fill roles that they'd never filled before. And some were more equipped to deal with it than others, right? Yep. But I think that some of it is if you can allow yourself to be able to listen and react and engage, and you're not afraid of, okay, wait, let's not say anything and hope that, the conversation will stop. That it makes a big difference if you're willing to engage and have a dialogue with people out there. Yeah. But it takes guts. And there's a lot of leadership that's, they're a little more faint of heart. We certainly had clients that they came to us and asked us how to deal with things when, the rise of the Black Lives Matter protests and how should they deal with things. The important thing is that you're doing something. It's not just how you're showing up on Instagram. Yeah. And so providing counsel around that was really important. But at the end of the day, it comes down to leadership and what they're actually doing.
I love this. there was a conversation that we had. I don't remember who it was with, but it was here in the podcast, and they mentioned that when you are speaking your message, you're pretty much doing a public commitment, right? And I love that because I was like, we've noticed a transformation in turning our thoughts into words. Like just the fact of doing this has changes, honestly, like completely of who we are. Like I look back a few years and I'm like, I don't recognize that Fonzie from, a few years back.
You do have a better beard.
Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But to my point, right, is when he said that you're making a public commitment, guess what? Then you actually start thinking, asking yourself, do I really believe these things that I'm saying? And if you do, right, you need to back it up with action, right? And I kind of align what you're saying right now of these companies that is like, it's not just showing up nicely on Instagram. You got to back it up with your actions as well, right? And I'm curious, what has been, some of these actions that you've seen companies take that is not just about being loud and saying, rah, rah, we support X, Y, and Z movement or, cause, but they're actually doing something as well about that in their business.
Yeah, no, I think, it's interesting to even look at how we had to deal with all of everything that was going on in our worlds a bit differently as well. And we're fortunate we have somebody who had Claude Singer has a title, Claude Silver. She's a singer too.
This is why.
Silver has the title of Chief Heart Officer. And she, she definitely leads with heart, but she encouraged us to have these town halls where everyone got to ask all the tough questions live. We didn't know what any of the questions were ahead of time. And people would just pop in to the Zooms or ask her, and she would ask them anonymously some of the, tough questions across the board. Yeah. And we had to be able to respond right then and there. And I think there are a lot of, I'm fortunate, I'm in a bunch of different CMO roundtable groups and things. And all of the CMOs were getting bombarded by their CEOs around, well, what's the press release or what's the thing that I have to put out there, the communication? Can't you just deal with this? And to your point, it's about, no, what are the commitments we're actually taking that mean that we're probably making a departure on how we hired things before, scholarships that were given, policies that we have. Yeah. And so many of the things were less about marketing and more about what are the things that we're doing inside of our organizations that need to change, because there's a lot of systemic change that needs to be done. Yeah. I'm not going to point out specific brands and things just to not to point fingers and that kind of thing. But I think that, this is something that anyone that also recognizes the fact that this systemic change is going to be ongoing for quite some time. And so how do you put yourself as a brand out there to encourage people to participate, whether it's getting other companies, other brands to join arms, whether it's getting your employees to be able to show up as their whole selves and to be able to celebrate all kinds of diversity measures across the board, whether it's gender, race, sexuality, all those kind of things. Yeah. And to be able to do that and have the freedom to speak about it and to create content. I think that's another, big part of it is how do we open this up so that we can let everyone, celebrate who they are. Yeah.
Absolutely. This speaks to me. I'm sorry, I'm now taking over the mic.
You're good.
But this, we mentioned the mission and vision kind of like being somewhat of a old way, right? Now we need to be flexible. But what you're telling me right now, I feel is core values. Like it speaks core values. Like these companies needs to have core values, which personally for VaynerMedia, right? Like I can see them in Gary, right? Like every time you see Gary's content and when he speak, you can really tell what his core values is. And the cool thing is that you can tell they're all across the company. Because Andrea, talking to you, I'm like, they have the same core values, right? They're aligned. So the decisions that they make, the message that they send, they are aligned with these core values. And I remember actually Claude was at PodMax as well. Yeah. I think she was one of the speakers one day, and same thing, right? Same core values, right? And I think it's incredible. And I mean, I know you want to dig a question. I have a question, but
you're going to ask about Vayner Spain.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. We can go into that.
This is actually exclusive news, guys.
Exclusive.
It's coming. Vayner Spain, Biz Bros are going to be at the forefront. I'm not putting any words in your mouth, Andrea. You say, but it will be super. It will be an honor actually to be a part of that.
We'll make a clip out of this and we'll send it to Gary. Gary, look at what randomly came up in this conversation.
Yeah, if you guys get millions of requests, you know where it's coming from.
I was actually going to ask a little bit about the hiring process and, you know, fitting these core values. And I know you're also, you know, into the gender equality and all that stuff, which I'm pretty sure it's a big mission of yours inside of the company. But I don't know if that will be deviating us a little bit from the content. But
I just want to make a quick comment, right? Like today, sharing your message is so easy. Like it's just one button and that's it. And then that causes a lot of transparency as far as like what's happening, right? So I think the message is going to create that filter for companies, right? Like, are we actually being honest? Are we actually performing on the promises that we're putting out there, right? And people now have access to give immediate feedback through many, many channels, right? So I think if a company wants to survive from now on, they're going to have to attach to these systems right in place, because if not, they're going to have a really hard time moving forward with with what they want to do, right? So on the transparency aspect, I think today we live in a day and age, and entrepreneurs, like people starting with their publishing journeys or their companies, have access to the same channels that big companies have, right? Maybe not the resources, but the channels are there, right? And then they can start waving their way in and have a massive impact, right? If their core values are aligned with what they share with their message and the transparency that they can share all that with, right? Yeah. So that was just my quick comment. I'm interested in there because Andrea, I'm the systems guy, right? Like it's not that we have 900 employees. We have our team is about 8 people, right? But at the same time, like to be able to get there from freelancing a few years back, right? There's some systems in there, and there's some entrepreneurs that we help creating those systems, right? So when we talk high volume, each company, I'm sure that has different strategies, different ways, different team members, different things. And you guys, with the size of company, like how do you align that vision, right? How do you align that vision to make sure that everything that you guys are sharing, because now we've seen it from Gary, from you, from Claude, in different channels, is aligned? What are some of the things that entrepreneurs can take today to make sure that their company and their teams are aligned?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. And interestingly, yesterday was our 12-year anniversary.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, we're over 1,000 employees now. So the early days, wow. It's really easy to create a wild, impactful culture that's very entrepreneurial. But then as it gets bigger and you start expanding across continents and all kinds of things, how do you celebrate not only the same kind of methodology and thinking, but the spirit as well that you guys are talking about. Yeah. And so we've had to challenge ourselves quite a bit. And I've only been here for 3.5 years. But I remember almost like a year in, Gary announced to the whole company that he was thinking about setting up a competing company right across the street, because he said we were starting to get too influenced by our clients and having, sort of a campaign-led approach that had like one idea with an insight and then, chopping it up and putting it into, across all the platforms. He said, no, this is not how it's done. Mm-hmm. If it's coming from Vayner, we have to be celebrating the fact that we've got many, many different cohorts, that we understand where attention is going. We have an integrated approach and we celebrate volume. And if not, then it's not coming from Vayner.
Yeah.
And so I think we do a lot of things just to keep keep connected to what's real. One of the things that we just stood up at the beginning of the year is every day at 1:37 p.m. everybody stops and they dial into a show. So we created it's a content, it's a live show that's for 15 minutes. It starts at 1:37, it ends at 1:52, and not at 1:53, 1:52. Yeah. And it's a combination of, some days Gary rocks up. We don't tell anybody ahead of time who's showing up. Today we just had Gary and Beeple. So the artist that just sold his work through an end for $69 million at Christie's. Yeah,
the collection of picture illustrations.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly. And so sometimes some days it's an employee talking about their side hustle of selling hot sauce. Another day it might be someone that's taking us through how to meditate. But it's that kind of spirit that it's always changing up. It connects us. We have the ability to all chat, and sort of connect up across different geographies.
Wow.
And so but the second things start to, the numbers start to fall off, then we do something else, right? And I think that's the other important thing is that as you're looking at your content, we launched Marketing for the Now, which was a video content series that we thought was only going to be 6 weeks at the start of the pandemic. Now, a year later, 20 episodes in, we've got 60,000 people following or viewing it each episode across 144 different countries. But we thought it was going to be dead after 6 weeks because who needs another Zoom and another thing and another whatever? Yeah. But you know what? It turns out we still need it. And when we don't, we'll do something different.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love it. And I find it fascinating because, Gary from the beginning has been somebody that we've obviously looked up to and admire. And a lot of people are afraid because obviously the shame here, the name here is content is profit, right? So how do we connect that content into the profit, right? Because at the very beginning, and I'm gonna raise my hand here. I was one of those guys that listened to Gary and it's like value, right? And then as an entrepreneur, where is the transaction happening, right? Where is that sales system? Like, how do we capture that opportunity to provide that value after the paid wall, right? So I'm interested to know, like, after all these campaigns, content, message that we put out there that's aligned with our core values, how is the transition made into the sales side of things? What is it? Does it come from feedback from the audience and then we adapt to that? Or you guys have a set of products that you guys have done on the back end to kind of help that pre-studied audience, maybe, if there's a pre-studied audience? I'm not sure. What is that connection there?
Yeah, no, I think the whole idea of how do you connect in a way that's generous is super important. And it's something that, Gary's built not only his career on, but his life on. So his legacy is he's written books on this, right? That, that are all about if you are giving everything away, then people are going to want to stay connected to you and eventually do things with you, or maybe not. Maybe they're just a part of your community and, and that's what it is. And so I think that, particularly during the pandemic, we decided that, look, there's no information out there. People want to know what's going on the front lines and they want to be able to learn things quickly. So let's have 12, 10-minute conversations with different people from, anything from C-suite decision makers to celebrities to influencers, culture shapers, and just have, rapid fire things you can kind of dial in, check out what you want. And from there, we also have very small format opportunities to bring people together, because I don't think there was a safe place to confess that, hey, I don't know what's going on. I'm losing steam. I need help because I'm a leader. I'm supposed to have all this stuff. I'm supposed to keep my teams all riled up. I'm supposed to keep them focused on the content creation. But meanwhile, I don't know what's going to happen. And e-commerce is up now. What's it going to be in 2021 and 2022? All these questions. And so we provided these closed room environments that we didn't record, which is sort of not like us, right? Yeah. Where people could help one another. So we just had a mosh pit where people would throw in challenges, and we host these like 2 to 3 days a week where people can find value meeting new friends and make connections. And, some of them we may work with some days, some we may not. We try to help people find new talent. But it's all about, good karma, and everything else will come out of that.
So good.
Well, I love it. So good. It's just go into that jab, right hook, kind of like core value that you guys
are good, my man.
That was probably the first book we ever got around
like
content.
entrepreneurship
/ content. Yeah, a while back.
Yeah, true. I remember that. But I love this, and I just find
Andrea,
it so
I'm just
impressive.
gonna put this out there. This needs to happen a part 2 live, please. So I'm just gonna throw that invitation out there. I'm gonna put it into the universe,
and then part 3, 4, and then a part live in Spain in the in the VaynerMedia offices of Spain.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gary, we're gonna send you this message again. We're just gonna send all these videos.
Yeah.
I'm just impressed at the level of alignment that you guys have across the company is so impressive. How all the core values are just like ingrained in everybody, and not ingrained. I think that's a bad word. Like everybody believes in the same core values, and you guys all truly believe.
Them, right?
Yeah, you live them exactly.
Believing them is one thing, but living them is another, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. So tell me, what is the? I feel like a lot of people think they just need to believe them and not live them. How do you cross that bridge?
Yeah. So I think that you have to lead by example. So you talked about the fact that I do a lot of different things. I do that because I think it's important for me to give back and to, have stimulation outside of work and all that kind of thing. In most places of work, that kind of you're only celebrated as your professional self, and you're encouraged not to share anything else. At Vayner, it's actually, we want to know what your side hustle is, because we want to actually help to grow your side hustle. It could be that your side hustle is going to be bigger than Vayner is one day, right?
Yeah.
We want to be a part of that.
that's awesome.
And so to be in an organization where everybody gets to show up as their whole self every day, that means that the work we're creating also is that much better, because we're thinking like human beings rather than corporate robots. And unfortunately, there's a lot of places where you're checking 75% of yourself at the door when you walk in.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when we first brought the first team members on board. It was like their main video editor, and then there's different pieces that came after. We started discovering through these conversations that they're all gamers. They build their own computers, and they're like anime fans, right? And our part of our story is that, right? Like we grew up Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that.
If you see,
there's a lot of
what we have right here, right?
Star Wars, all the Lego, everything, right?
Or
and
geek side.
Yeah, the geek side, right? And we didn't know that the second that conversation happened, everything changed, right? Because their relationship got deeper. We now started to have fun. They started sharing their streams and their Twitch channels and these things. And we're like, oh, this is so awesome, right? We're like, how are you guys doing it? What are you guys doing? And they don't want us to use Max. We use Max. They're like, build your own PC. And there's like this incredible chemistry now that it has evolved over the last year, right? And obviously that's a very small example of what this could be or what it could mean to a bigger company, right? People being grateful every single day for being there and having a possibility, right? We had a couple team members, same thing, starting their own thing, right? And that was our fear. It was like, oh my gosh, what if like they get so inspired by these conversations, right? And then they go on their own and do the thing. Well, it happened like a month in, right? And we're like, man, we're happy. Like this is so awesome to be a part of that, right? And it's changing that perspective and moving forward. So I commend you guys for what you guys have done, for being loud every single time, from the year that you guys started. I mean, right now you're like, what, 20, 30 years that the publishing has been going on, right? And you guys are not near like this end, and you guys have been helping a lot of people finding their voice, encouraging them to document, to be out there, to share their voice. And thank you, because you guys have been a great inspiration for us too on doing this thing live, raw, and it's gonna probably continue raw and real. I mean, there's no editing on the audio side of things. This is how it's gonna come out, and people, we found our tribe. We found the people that follow us and that resonate, and we've been able to. I'm blessed to serve them.
And what a tribe it is, right? No,
so fun.
Congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
It's amazing. Your electricity. You are so contagious. You're contagious for your guests, and you're contagious for your audience as well. And so it's who needs coffee when they can get up and talk to you guys.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much.
Means a lot. All right, so as we're wrapping up, because I know they're being like all the alerts are throwing us back in there in the room, but we're gonna ignore them for just a little bit. So Andrea, here's one thing. What is one action point, right? Most people that listen to us are people that are starting their own businesses, right? They're transitioning from a work or a job that they might not enjoy too much to their passion, right? And they're starting to publish. They're getting there. They're trying to build those systems around publishing to be able to scale, right, at volume, like we mentioned at the very beginning. What is one action point that they can do today to create that momentum to move forward?
So they just need to get out there and tell their story everywhere they possibly can. Say yes, yes, yes to every invitation, whether it's being a guest on a podcast, whether it's, jumping into the Clubhouse mosh pit, whether it's, looking at, some people don't like LinkedIn, Instagram, like do it all. and figure out how you can, create a whole ecosystem like you guys had talked about, so that you're gaining some efficiencies on that, but you're combining the art and science of it all.
So that's a fun game to play, and I'm just gonna say that's a very fun game to play, and I highly encourage everybody to start exploring those possibilities. Like, have fun with it.
Play that yes game.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it.
Fonzie, anything else?
I don't know. I'm like speechless. This has been so awesome, Andrea. Like literally, as we've been speaking. Wow, speaking right now. You see, this things happens. I'm gonna put a little parenthesis here and make tell a little story. I was so afraid of going live at first, of recording anything, because of mistakes, right? We were like, oh no, what if we make a mistake? So, fun story. We have a roadcaster here where, the audio comes in. And we bought this about 2 years ago. We were like, if we invest in this...
3 now.
No, it was like 2 years. If we invest in this, we are going to do the podcast. Like, we have no other choice, right? So we bought the equipment. We sit down there. We were doing this challenge, and the idea was to do the challenge and then do our little recap of the challenge in a podcast episode with like cameras, the light, perfectionism, right? Perfectionism. So we started, and like 20 minutes in or 30 minutes in, we made a mistake, one of us, and I was like, nope, we cannot publish that. Let's start again, right? Like that fear of being perceived as somebody that made mistakes, it was so real, right? And then when we started the 45 Live, in part was to get comfortable in front of the camera. And then when we did the podcast, when we actually launched the podcast, a year after we bought the equipment, we were like, you know what? We're going to go live. If we make mistakes, we're going to embrace them. We just get sweaty pits. It's right. Okay. And then people will connect with that, right? Because they're like, they're real, right? Like, these guys made mistakes. Now they're empowering me to make mistakes too and be okay with it. That's how we learn. So
collect samples.
Yeah, I just wanted to do that parenthesis because, one of my biggest fears was kind of like that language barrier. Sometimes we say things that like make no sense whatsoever, like spoken.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put that.
We could do this interview in Spanish, and I'll have all the wrong things. I'll try to do my best, but you're doing pretty well.
Appreciate it. We should totally do this in Spanish in the new offices of VaynerMedia, of course.
Yeah, exactly. But isn't fear a crazy thing? Even though we know that we need to strike that, and we can know it up here in our brains, but there's something that creeps in every once in a while, and it's like you just gotta go. Keep going.
Yes, absolutely.
Keep going. Don't stop.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you, Andrea, again from sharing your message. Where can people connect with you guys, with the company, if they want to find out more? Obviously, Gary's all over social media, multiple languages, multiple accounts. If you have a specific place that we want to, send people, please let me know.
Please. Yeah. We are everywhere. So check out VaynerX.com, and that way you can see everything that we offer, whether it's for entrepreneurs all the way up to Fortune 100 companies. You can also check out, there's links there for Marketing for the Now, which is the content series I was just talking about. You can feel free to hit me up even by email, Andrea.Sullivan or Andrea.Sullivan at VaynerMedia.com. And then I'm on all the platforms too. So check us out. We'd love to help anyone that's looking for a job, that needs some help in finding, Gary's published a whole platform on how to create content, whatever it is, we want to give it away. But we love what you guys are doing, and we'd love to help you in any way. You're absolutely fantastic. I've loved this experience and totally moved by the difference you're making.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And I want to encourage everybody that's listening to connect with Andrea. Send her an email. I'm certainly gonna send you an email, Andrea, just so you know. So expect one from me. This has been incredible. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. With that said, thank you so much for tuning into the Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and subscribe. Smash that follow button on social media and your favorite podcasting platform.
That is right. And if you find this episode inspiring and you are ready to take over your fears, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. Ciao.
Bye, guys.